Welcome to this deep dive, everyone. We're going to explore something fascinating, the 80-20 principle. We'll be diving into excerpts from the book, The 80-20 Principle, The Secret to Achieving More with Less.
Definitely a classic.
And get this, we're not just talking about business.
Right.
This is about how this principle can change your entire life, your work, finances, relationships, even happiness.
It's really about finding those key areas, the vital few that actually drive most of the results.
So let's break it down. What exactly is this 80-20 principle?
Well, it's the idea that roughly 80% of the effects you see come from just 20% of the causes. This pattern, it pops up everywhere, not just in business, but in life too. It really challenges that idea of you always get out what you put in.
You're saying working smarter, not harder.
Exactly. It's about finding that crucial 20% that really matters and then focusing your effort there. Don't spread your energy everywhere. Concentrate it where it'll have the most impact.
So where did this idea even come from?
Believe it or not, it goes all the way back to 1897.
Wow.
An Italian economist named Wilfredo Pareto was studying wealth distribution.
Okay.
And he noticed something. 80% of the land in Italy was owned by just 20% of the people.
Wow. That's a huge imbalance.
Yeah.
How did that observation about land ownership, how did that become something that influences everything else?
Well, Pareto's finding kind of set off a chain reaction. Researchers started noticing these 80-20 patterns in all sorts of fields. For example, back in the 1960s, IBM used this principle to really boost the efficiency of their computer software.
So IBM was ahead of the game.
Oh, absolutely. They figured out that computers were spending 80% of their processing time on just 20% of the operating code. So by making that 20% more user-friendly, they made their computers way more efficient.
That's smart. Did other tech companies follow suit?
Oh, you bet. Apple, Lotus, Microsoft all used the 80-20 principle when they were developing personal computers. They focused on making them easy to use for most people.
Okay, so this seemingly simple idea, it shaped the technology we use today.
Yeah, it's not just technology. The 80-20 principle also connects to chaos theory.
Chaos theory. That sounds a little intimidating.
I know, right? The name is a bit much, but the idea is simple. Chaos theory suggests that small initial advantages can turn into huge differences over time. This ties in directly with the 80-20 principle.
So small differences, big imbalances. What's a real-world example of that?
Think about the saying, the rich get richer. That's a classic example. That initial wealth can often lead to more wealth.
Yeah.
And that creates an 80-20 distribution. You could even see it with goldfish in a pond. You start with a bunch of similar-sized goldfish, right? Even a slight size advantage at the beginning can make a huge difference. The bigger fish eat more, grow faster, and they end up dominating the pond.
That's a good point. I never thought of it that way. So how does chaos theory connect to business strategy?
Well, instead of always striving for perfect balance, businesses can use their understanding of these natural imbalances to their advantage.
So it's about understanding how these imbalances work and then strategically using them. So instead of spreading resources evenly, it's more effective to focus on what's already working well.
Yeah, you got it. It's about recognizing and capitalizing on those lucky streaks in business, understanding that they're often a result of this 80-20 dynamic and not just random chance.
Right. This is getting strategic. How have businesses and consultants actually used the 80-20 principle?
One way is by focusing on their most profitable clients. For example, consulting firms will figure out which clients bring in the most revenue, and then they'll tailor their services to keep those clients happy.
So it's about prioritizing the relationships that are most valuable, right?
That's exactly.
Not just in terms of money, but in terms of impact too, right?
Precisely. And it goes beyond just clients. Businesses can use the 80-20 principle internally to streamline their processes and become more productive.
Okay, so how do you actually pinpoint those vital few elements, within a complex business? Where do you even start?
That's where the analysis comes in. It's about digging into the data, understanding customer behavior, and figuring out which products, services, or processes are really driving profits. It's like separating the signal from the noise.
That sounds like detective work.
It can be a bit like that, but the payoff is worth it. By simplifying their operations and focusing on what truly matters, businesses can become incredibly efficient and profitable.
This whole idea that simplicity is key, it really resonates with me. It seems like we're always bombarded with complexity in business.
Oh, absolutely. And that's where the 80-20 principle is so powerful. The book emphasizes how complexity often leads to higher costs and lower returns.
Well, less can actually be more.
In many cases, yes. By focusing on the simplest 20% of products, processes, even marketing messages, businesses can streamline operations, cut overhead, and ultimately improve their bottom line.
This is making me rethink my whole approach to everything. It's about identifying the essential and cutting out the rest. Right. Can you give me a concrete example of how this works?
Sure. Imagine a company that sells a wide variety of lipsticks. They analyze their sales and find out that 80% of their sales come from just a handful of shades.
Okay. A classic 80-20 scenario. So they should focus on those best-selling shades.
Exactly. Instead of spreading their marketing efforts across all their lipsticks, they should concentrate on those top performers. They might even consider phasing out some of the underperforming shades.
That makes sense. But wouldn't they risk losing customers who love those less popular shades?
That's a common concern, but research shows that getting rid of those marginal products can actually boost profits without hurting customer perception. In fact, it can even make the shopping experience better by focusing attention on what's most popular.
So strategic streamlining to improve both efficiency and the customer experience.
Exactly. The 80-20 principle isn't about blindly cutting things. It's about making informed decisions to focus your resources on what truly matters.
I'm with you. This 80-20 thinking is powerful. But I'm also realizing that it requires a shift in mindset. What are some of those mental shifts someone needs to make to truly embrace this principle?
Well, one crucial shift is to adopt a more hedonistic approach to life. Now, this doesn't mean indulging in every whim, but rather pursuing activities both in work and your personal life that bring you genuine joy.
So it's about aligning your actions with what you truly value and enjoy.
That's it. The book argues that achieving something worthwhile is often easier and more enjoyable when you find pleasure in the process itself.
Makes sense. It's easier to be productive when you're passionate about what you're doing.
Right. And this connects to another important mindset shift, embracing progress.
Okay.
The 80-20 mindset encourages a focus on continuous improvement, building on your successes rather than getting bogged down by perfectionism.
So celebrating wins, no matter how small, and using them as stepping stones.
Exactly. It's about recognizing that even small improvements, when you keep building on them, can lead to significant progress.
I like that. That's a lot more empowering than constantly striving for some unattainable ideal.
It is. And this focus on progress is particularly important when it comes to time management, which is something so many people struggle with. The 80-20 principle offers some unconventional but very effective ways to manage your time better.
This is where I could definitely use some help. What's the 80-20 perspective on time?
It's pretty eye-opening. The book points out that most of us spend a huge chunk of our time, maybe even 80%, on low-priority tasks that don't really get us results.
That's a little concerning. So how do we escape that time trap?
The key is to shift your focus
to
the most valuable uses of your time. The things that are aligned with your purpose, bring you joy, and get you real results. This might mean trying out some unconventional strategies that challenge the usual way of thinking about time management.
Unconventional. I like the sound of that. What are some examples?
Absolutely. One suggestion is to prioritize tasks that truly advance your overall purpose in life. This might involve pursuing those long-held dreams or exploring new areas that spark your curiosity.
It's about aligning your actions with your big picture goals, right?
Yeah, you got it. The book also encourages you to tackle tasks that fall into that 80-20 sweet spot, the ones that produce huge results relative to the time invested.
That's so efficient. But how do you even figure out which tasks those are?
This is where you need to reflect and analyze. Track your time, see what outcomes your efforts are producing, and pinpoint those activities that consistently deliver exceptional results. It's about understanding your own personal productivity patterns.
So another detective case.
Kind of.
Yeah.
You're looking for clues that reveal how to best leverage your time and talents.
I like that. Focusing on the most valuable uses of my time just makes sense. So many of us feel busy all the time, but don't really know what's driving our actions.
That's so common. We often mistake activity for productivity, getting lost in a whirlwind of tasks without considering their true value or whether they align with our goals.
I'm guilty of that. But the 80-20 principle seems to offer a way out of that cycle.
It does, and it goes beyond just managing your work hours.
Okay.
It encourages you to apply this thinking to how you design your overall lifestyle.
So we're talking more than just efficiency at work. We're talking about designing a life that truly reflects what we value and are passionate about.
That's it. It's about applying the 80-20 principle across your whole life. The book suggests, for instance, that you explore ways to eliminate that conflict between work and leisure, maybe by incorporating things you enjoy into your profession.
That sounds amazing. But how is that even possible? Work and leisure often feel like totally separate world.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But the book challenges us to rethink that division. You could consider turning a hobby into a business
Okay.
or pursuing a career that aligns with your interests. The point is that your passions can be a powerful driver of both personal and professional success.
It's about breaking down those artificial barriers and creating a life that feels, well, integrated and fulfilling.
You got it. The 80-20 principle encourages you to be intentional about designing a lifestyle that supports your well-being so you can thrive in all areas of life.
Okay, I really like this perspective on work-life balance. Can you give me an example of how to apply this principle to a specific career?
Sure. The book offers some great advice. One suggestion is to specialize in a niche where you can become a leader.
So it's about finding that intersection of your skills and passions and becoming a true expert.
Exactly. It's about leveraging your unique strengths and knowledge to differentiate yourself.
Makes sense. But how do you actually go about choosing that niche when there are so many options?
This is where self-reflection comes in. You need to consider your skills, what you're interested in, and whether there is a market demand for your expertise. And importantly, choose a niche that you genuinely enjoy, because passion is key for long-term success.
So finding that perfect blend of what you're good at, what you love, and what the world needs. What else?
The book also highlights the importance of learning from the best in your field.
So surround yourself with excellence and learn from those who have already achieved what you want to achieve.
Yes. Mentorship, observation, and even healthy competition can be powerful catalysts for growth.
I love that idea of leveraging the wisdom and experience of others. But career success is often linked to financial success, right? How does the 80-20 principle apply to building wealth?
This is where it gets really interesting. The book challenges traditional financial advice by suggesting that investment income has more potential for building wealth than employment income.
So it's not just about getting a high salary. It's about putting your money to work for you.
Exactly. It's about shifting your mindset from earn and spend to invest and grow.
This reminds me of the advice to diversify investments. Does the 80-20 principle support that?
Actually, it challenges that idea, at least to some extent. The book suggests that building a portfolio with a few high-return investments is key. It might seem counterintuitive. I know we're often told not to put all our eggs in one basket, but there's a good reason for it.
Okay, that's a bold statement. What's the rationale?
The book argues that by carefully choosing a few high-potential investments and focusing your resources on them, you can achieve exponential growth. It points to successful investors like Warren Buffett, who built his fortune by concentrating on a small number of carefully chosen companies.
It's hard to argue with Warren Buffett's success, but picking those winning investments seems like the hard part. Does the book offer any guidance on that?
It does. It lays out 10 commandments of investment, emphasizing things like aligning your investment philosophy with your personality, being proactive, investing for the long term, and buying when the market is low.
So strategic thinking, calculated risks, and a long-term vision. Fascinating. We've talked a lot about work, careers, and finances. What about happiness and relationships? How does the 80-20 principle apply to those areas of life?
That's where this principle really shines in its ability to improve your well-being. The book stresses that happiness is a skill you can cultivate, just like fitness or intelligence.
So it's not just something that happens to you. You can actively create it.
Exactly. And the 80-20 principle helps you identify and prioritize the activities and relationships that contribute the most to your happiness.
Okay. What are some of those key 80-20 insights for boosting happiness?
Well, the book highlights the importance of emotional intelligence, your ability to manage your emotions and handle social situations. This plays a huge role in your overall happiness.
So it's not just what's going on around you, but about how you handle things internally.
Exactly. And this ties in with having a positive self-image. The book argues that a strong sense of self-worth is essential for happiness, and that you can cultivate it by focusing on your strengths and accomplishments rather than dwelling on your weaknesses.
So reframing how you talk to yourself and choosing empowering thoughts.
Yes. You have the power to shape your own thoughts and feelings. Choosing to focus on the positive can make a huge difference.
I like that. It's a very proactive approach to happiness.
Yep.
But what about concrete actions? Does the book offer any practical tips for boosting happiness on a daily basis?
It does. It suggests incorporating simple habits into your day that are known to increase well-being. These include things like doing activities you enjoy, performing acts of kindness, and spending quality time with loved ones.
Those sound like great ways to create a more fulfilling life. Does the book give any real-life examples of people using the 80-20 principle to increase their happiness?
Yes, it does. It shares a story about a CEO named Daryl who was diagnosed with a nonverbal learning disability. Despite this challenge, he learned to leverage his strengths and rely on others for support. He found power in what he initially perceived as a weakness.
That's great. It's about embracing your imperfections and understanding that you don't have to do everything yourself.
You got it. It's about building a strong support system and leveraging your collective strengths.
I'm really struck by this idea that happiness is a skill you can develop. It's so empowering. But happiness is also closely connected to our relationships, isn't it? How does the 80-20 principle apply to building strong and fulfilling relationships?
That's where the principle offers some profound insights. The book argues that deepening a few key personal relationships is more valuable than maintaining a lot of superficial connections.
So quality over quantity applies to relationships as well.
Absolutely. It's about investing your time and energy in the relationships that truly matter. The book also suggests that building strong professional alliances can be a big factor in career success. It emphasizes things like reciprocity, trust, and mutual respect in these relationships.
It makes me think of the saying, it's not what you know, it's who you know.
There's a lot of truth to that saying, and the 80-20 principle helps us understand why. Strong relationships, both personal and professional, can open doors, offer support, and create opportunities that you wouldn't have on your own.
So it's about building a network where everyone benefits and thrives.
That's the ideal. The book highlights key attributes of successful relationships: mutual enjoyment, respect, shared experiences, giving back to each other, and trust.
Those are definitely qualities I value in my relationships. It's about building connections that are authentic, supportive, and genuinely fulfilling.
You're exactly right. When you apply the 80-20 principle to relationships, you encourage yourself to nurture the connections that bring joy, meaning, and support to your life.
This has been so insightful. I'm starting to see the 80-20 principle everywhere now. It's such a powerful framework for understanding how the world works and making choices that maximize your results and happiness.
It really is a powerful tool. And it's not just about understanding it, it's about actually using it. The book is full of examples of people who have used the 80-20 principle to achieve amazing things in their careers, finances, and personal lives.
I'm feeling inspired to try it out. But with so many applications, where do you even begin?
That's a great question. One suggestion is to start small, focusing on one area of your life where you'd like to see improvement. Maybe it's your time management, your career path, or even how you approach relationships.
So pick one area and then what?
Then look at that area through the 80-20 lens. Ask yourself questions like, what are the 20% of activities that are driving 80% of my results or happiness in this area? What can I do to eliminate or reduce the 80% that isn't contributing much? And how can I use those vital few to create more of what I truly want?
Those are powerful questions. It's about moving from a scattered approach to something much more focused and strategic.
You hit the nail on the head. The 80-20 principle empowers you to be more intentional, more selective, and ultimately more effective in everything you do. You know, as we keep digging into this 80-20 principle, it's becoming clear that it's not just some abstract theory. It's really a practical tool, for uncovering hidden potential in everything we do.
I agree. It's almost like getting a behind-the-scenes look at how success and happiness really work.
That's a great way to put it. And one area where this principle can be really powerful is in helping you identify and really maximize your strengths.
Okay, strengths. Now you've got my attention. Can you tell me more about that? The connection between the 80-20 principle and our strengths.
Well, we all have limited time and energy, right? So instead of trying to be good at everything, which can be exhausting, the 80-20 principle suggests focusing on developing those skills where you naturally excel.
So playing to our strengths instead of trying to fix all of our weaknesses.
That's it. It's about recognizing that we're not all meant to be good at everything. And that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
In fact, by embracing your strengths and finding ways to delegate or outsource those tasks that drain your energy, the things that are outside your wheelhouse, you can become much more effective and satisfied.
This makes me think about that Pareto chart we talked about before. It seems like a useful tool for, identifying those strengths that are driving most of our positive results.
It is. When you apply that Pareto analysis to your own skills and accomplishments, it can give you some great insights into where your true strengths lie.
Right.
Then you can use that information to make strategic decisions about how you invest your time and energy.
So being strategic about self-development, I like that. Choosing to focus on the areas where you have the greatest potential to grow, to really make an impact.
Exactly. It's about aligning your efforts with your natural talents and really getting the most out of your investment in yourself.
This is making me rethink how I approach, learning and growing. It's not about trying to be a jack of all trades. It's about mastering those few things that truly matter to you and where you can make a real difference.
That's a great insight. And this idea of focusing on the vital few, it applies not just to your personal strengths, but to relationships as well. The 80-20 principle suggests that most of our happiness and support comes from a small group of really key relationships.
So taking the time to cultivate those really important relationships.
Yes. And that means being mindful of who you spend your time with.
Right.
Making sure to prioritize those relationships that bring you joy, meaning, and support. It also means being willing to let go of relationships that are draining or no longer serving you well.
That can be tough. Letting go of relationships, even if you know they're not healthy, it's hard.
I know, it's not always easy.
Yeah.
But it's a really important part of building a fulfilling life. The 80-20 principle encourages us to be honest with ourselves about which relationships are truly enriching our lives.
Yeah.
And then make choices that align with our values and well-being.
This makes you reevaluate your social circles, doesn't it? I mean, am I spreading myself too thin, trying to maintain this huge network, when I could be focusing on deepening the relationships that truly matter?
That's a common thing. We feel this pressure to have this huge social media presence or to attend every event. But the 80-20 principle reminds us that it's the quality of our connections, not the quantity, that really counts.
I like that. It's freeing. It gives us permission to be more selective and prioritize the relationships that truly nourish us.
Exactly. And this focus on quality over quantity, it applies to our professional networks as well.
Oh, yeah. Building strong alliances with a few key individuals in your field can have a much bigger impact on your career than trying to network with everyone.
So it's about being strategic, right? About who you connect with, how you cultivate those relationships. It's not just collecting business cards. It's about making genuine connections.
That's it. It's about finding people who share your values, who inspire you, and who offer support and guidance as you move forward in your career. It's also about being willing to give as much as you receive to build relationships that are mutually beneficial and will really last over time.
Okay. I'm seeing more and more how the 80-20 principle is like this lens, right, for making choices that lead to a more fulfilling, more impactful life. But I want to go back to time management for a minute. We were talking before about using unconventional strategies to optimize our time. Can you give me some concrete examples how we can challenge that conventional wisdom, right, and use our time in a more, eccentric but effective way?
One thing the book suggests is to really question the necessity of meetings.
Meetings can often be very time-consuming, unproductive, especially if they don't have, clear objectives or involve way too many people.
I think that's something that resonates with a lot of people. We've all sat through those meetings that could have been an email. So what's the 80-20 approach to meetings?
It's about being selective, strategic. Ask yourself, is this meeting really necessary? Could we achieve the same objectives in a different way? And if a meeting is essential, make sure it has a clear purpose, a well-defined agenda, and only include the people who absolutely need to be there.
Right. Being respectful of everyone's time and making sure those meetings are truly focused and productive.
Yeah. And this focus on efficiency, it extends to other areas of work as well. The 80-20 principle encourages you to delegate or outsource tasks that fall outside your expertise or that you just don't enjoy.
I think a lot of people, myself included, we get caught up in the idea that we have to do everything ourselves.
Right.
But delegating or outsourcing, that could free us up to focus on what we do best.
Exactly. It's about leveraging the skills and talents of others so you can free up your time and energy for those things where you truly excel. This could mean hiring a virtual assistant, outsourcing certain business functions, or even just asking for help from colleagues or loved ones.
Okay. This is changing the way I think about productivity. I've always thought that I needed to control everything, but realizing that, delegating or outsourcing, that could help me focus on my strengths and actually get better results. That's a big shift.
It's a common trap to think that being busy equals being productive.
Yeah.
But the 80-20 principle, it encourages us to redefine productivity in terms of impact, in terms of the results we achieve.
Yeah, I like that. It's a whole new level of working smarter, not harder. It's about getting the most results with the least effort.
That's the 80-20 sweet spot. And you can even apply this principle to your physical environment. The book suggests decluttering your home, decluttering your workspace.
Oh, okay.
Getting rid of things that no longer serve you, things that distract you from your goals.
So it's about creating a space that promotes, well, productivity and well-being.
Right. Yes. Surround yourself with things that inspire you, that you enjoy, and that help you focus on what's important.
This is making me want to do a major clean out. I'm holding onto so much stuff I don't even need or use, and it's taking up space, both physically and mentally.
A lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah.
We accumulate things over time, but we don't always realize how they're affecting our energy and our focus. The 80-20 principle encourages us to be more mindful about what we allow into our lives and to create an environment that really supports us.
This is such a well-rounded approach to, self-improvement. It's not just about working harder, being more efficient. It's about designing a life that reflects your values, a life that supports you in every way.
That's a great way to put it. The 80-20 principle, at its core, it's about creating a life with more ease, more joy, and more impact.
I feel so inspired by all this.
Yeah.
This deep dive has been a real eye-opener. I'm seeing the 80-20 principle everywhere now.
I'm glad to hear that. And as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I'm excited to share some more insights in the final segment, including some practical strategies for applying the 80-20 principle to your finances, relationships, even your happiness.
I'm looking forward to it. This has already been so helpful. I know I'll be thinking about all of these ideas long after we finish recording. Welcome back to our deep dive into the 80-20 principle. It's amazing how this concept can apply to so many different areas of life. We've covered time management, careers, relationships. Now I'm really interested in how it can help us create a better financial future.
Yeah, that's a great area to explore. The 80-20 principle offers some, unconventional but effective strategies for building wealth. One of the key insights is the importance of generating passive income.
Passive income, that sounds amazing. Having your money work for you instead of the other way around. But how can we actually achieve that using the 80-20 principle?
It's about shifting your focus. Instead of just trading time for money, which is what most jobs are about, the 80-20 principle encourages you to create assets that generate income even when you're not working.
So instead of constantly working for wealth, you're building wealth that works for you.
That's the idea. Think about things like investing in real estate, creating intellectual property that generates royalties, or building a business that can run without you needing to be there every day.
Those are some great examples. I imagine it takes a pretty big mindset shift to make that happen.
It does. It requires thinking long-term and being willing to invest your time and resources now to create something that will pay off later.
So patience and strategic planning. You're playing the long game, not looking for quick wins.
Exactly. And the 80-20 principle can help you identify those high-leverage activities that can create those passive income streams.
This is making me rethink how I approach finances. I've been so focused on increasing my active income that I haven't even considered passive income sources.
That's pretty common, especially when you're in that day-to-day grind. But the 80-20 principle encourages you to think beyond your current job. Consider how you can build long-term financial security.
It's like a path towards more freedom and choice, right? Not just accumulating wealth, but having more control over your time and life.
Absolutely. The 80-20 principle can help you create that. It's about making choices that align with your values and lead to a life with more ease, more joy, and more abundance.
I'm really inspired by this. I'm seeing the 80-20 principle as this guide for making decisions that create a more fulfilling life, professionally, financially, personally.
It's a really versatile principle. And as we wrap up our deep dive, I wanted to share a few final thoughts from the book about applying the 80-20 principle to relationships and happiness. We talked about them before, but there are a couple of powerful stories I wanted to share.
I'm all ears. We've covered so much. But I always love to hear those real-world examples, how this principle works in practice.
One story is about a guy named Michael Cloud. He was struggling financially, working long hours in a job he didn't enjoy. He decided to apply the 80-20 principle to his work, identifying those high-leverage tasks and focusing on them.
So instead of just being busy, he got strategic about how he was spending his time.
Yeah, exactly. He became really selective about which projects he took on, how he approached his work, and by focusing on those few tasks that were getting the most results, he was able to increase his income.
Significantly.
Significantly, more than tenfold, actually.
Wow, that's amazing. It shows how powerful this principle can be. Any other examples?
Yeah, there's another story about a guy named Daryl. He was a CEO, very successful, but he struggled with what he called brain clutter. He had trouble focusing, overwhelmed by all the demands on his time. The book talks about how he used the 80/20 principle to declutter not just his physical space, but his mental space too.
Okay.
He learned to delegate more, cut out unnecessary tasks, and focus on what really mattered to him.
So he applied the principle not just to his work, but to how he managed his mental energy, his overall well-being.
Exactly. He learned to identify the activities that were really energizing for him and cut out the ones that were just draining his time and attention. By applying the 80/20 principle to his whole life, he was able to reduce stress, improve focus, and become even more effective.
These stories are so inspiring. It really shows how the 80/20 principle can create positive change. It's not just about achieving more, it's about living a more fulfilling and meaningful life.
You got it. And that's what we hope you take away from this. The 80/20 principle is a powerful tool, but it's up to you to use it in a way that works for you.
This has been an incredible journey. I feel like I have a new way of thinking about success, happiness, everything.
It's been great sharing these insights with you. And remember, the 80/20 principle is all about making choices, intentional choices, that create the life you want.
I'm definitely feeling inspired and motivated to put all of this into practice. Thanks so much for taking me through this deep dive.
My pleasure. And to everyone listening, thank you for joining us on this exploration of the 80/20 principle. We hope you'll take a look at your own life through this lens and discover the incredible potential waiting for you when you focus your energy on what matters most.